Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us today. And we wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Gaunitai Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara Prabhupada, and Guru Maharaj, so that we can continue to do a overview of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I wanted to also seek the good wishes and blessings of the assembled Vaishnavas, so that we can dive into a little bit of the nectar of the Bhagavatam. Of course, we're just scratching the surface, a bit like licking the bottle of honey from the outside, but at least we're getting some idea of what is in the Bhagavatam. And it is incredible, I must say. This is an incredible verse in the Bhagavatam, chapter 74, text 40.
Nindam Bhagavataha Srimans Tatparashya Janasya Va Tatonapati Yasopi Yati Yada Shukatak Jataha. Translation: anyone who fails to immediately leave the place where he hears criticism of the Supreme Lord or his faithful devotees will certainly fall down bereft of his pious credit.
So this is a chapter which is all about Shishupal, how he insults the Lord. And this is a verse which explains that if the Lord is being criticized or his devotees are being criticized, it's not a good place to be, at least to be silent. Either one walks away or one counteracts. There is a third option, which is one kills the offender. But in this day and age, that's something that we wouldn't want to do. But if devotees are being criticized and the Lord is being criticized, either we counteract that or we leave. Otherwise, we are participating in the offense. Anyway, we'll come to that in a little while. The title of the chapter is The Deliverance of Shishupal at the Rajasuya Sacrifice. And the chapter describes how Krishna received the honor of the first worship during the Rajasuya sacrifice and how he killed Shishupal. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, he praises Krishna, having thus heard of Krishna's wonderful power. So this was the power that Krishna and Balaram, Bhim and Arjun had gone to Jarasandha and defeated him. Jarasandha was so powerful, so strong, he held captive 20,000 kings, 20,000 kings. So one king held all those under captive imprisonment. So his power was immense. And being killed Jarasandha by the advice of Krishna. And they then returned back to Indraprastha, and Yudhishthira Maharaj was informed by Krishna and the others what happened. So he heard about the wonderful prowess of Krishna's powers, and he addressed the Lord, and all the exalted rulers and demigods follow your command, which is rarely obtained. You accept the orders of wretched fools who presume themselves rulers. That's inconceivable. He's talking about himself, because he would ask Krishna, or he would, because he was the ruler, he would effectively be ordering Krishna, can you do this? In a humble way, of course. So, but of course, the power of the absolute truth is neither increased nor diminished by his activities. They're always his powers, any more than the sun's power is reduced by its movements. Even your devotees make no distinction of I and mine, you and yours, for this is the perverted mentality of animals. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is not just honoring the Lord, he's honoring the devotees as well of the Lord. And in that way, he's honoring the Lord, because Lord Krishna's devotees, they're very renounced, extremely renounced. So, and that's because the Lord, he himself is very renounced. So indirectly, yes, Naniben.
I didn't understand the sentence. You accepted the orders of the wretched fools who presume themselves rulers is inconceivable.
Yeah, sometimes, Krishna, he behaved like for example, he didn't install himself as a king in Dwaka, even in Mathura. He installed Ugrasen. And in Dwaka, he installed Ugrasen. And in Indraprasth, it was Yudhishthir. In Magad, it was Jarasan. Krishna never took the position of a monarch when he was on this planet. He always was one of the subjects, if you like. Of course, not an ordinary subject, he's a supreme lord. So as a subject, he would do what the rulers say. He would follow what the rulers say. So all Yudhishthir is saying, look, I'm a fool and you are listening to my orders. This is inconceivable. How is this possible? You are the Supreme Lord and you're listening to a fool like me. So he was just taking a humble position.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for asking. So Yudhishthir selected qualified Brahmins. After glorifying Lord Krishna with his permission. Of course, Yudhishthir was so humble, even though he was a monarch, he would always so humbly deal with not just Krishna, but practically everyone. He was just such an amazing personality. Anyway, he selected qualified Brahmins, all expert authorities on the Vedas, such as, and these are really notable personalities, Vyasdev, Krishna Daipanaya, Bharadwaj, who is that same Bharadwaj who's in one of the Saptarishis. Mm-hmm. And this is the line, isn't it, the Gotra that Guru Maharaj follows or is in. And we also
are in that Gotra.
Are attached to that by through Guru Maharaj. Gautam Rishi, Ashita, Asita, Vashisht, Maitreya. So Maitreya Rishi, he recited a lot of this Bhagavatam. So he was present at this time during the Rajasuya. Vishwamitra, this is very extraordinary. He was present during the time of Lord Ramachandra, even before. Garga Muni, Parasar Muni, who was the father of Vyasdev. So exalted personalities to serve as the priests of the registry sacrifice. Others who were invited included Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, Kripacharya, the Tarastra with his sons, wise Vidur, many of the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudra, all eager to witness the sacrifice. So it was a world event. It's almost like a little bit like the World Cup, but in a spiritual sense, of course. The Brahmins, priests then plowed the sacrificial ground and initiated King Yudhishthir for the sacrifice in accordance with the traditions set down by standard authorities. This is such a huge achievement because Yudhishthir, they were given this barren piece of land by Dhritarashtra, and now he's being honored as the monarch for the whole planet through this Rajasuya sacrifice. So it just shows what can be achieved if one is just surrendered to the Supreme Lord. If one wants to achieve this sort of thing, of course. The utensils used in the sacrifice were made of gold, just as in ancient Rajasuya performed by Lord Varun. It said that Lord Varun performed the first Rajasuya sacrifice. So whatever the utensils they were using, they were just like the ones that were made for Varun Dev's Rajasuya. All prominent devatas, so even the devatas were present and their associates were invited, Indeed, they all came from every direction to the registry of sacrifice. It must have been the most unimaginable event, most magnificent event. They were not in the least astonished to see the opulence of the sacrifice, since it was quite appropriate for a devotee of Lord Krishna. The members of the assembly then pondered over who among them would be worshipped first, because this is the honor. This is the honor. Who would be worshipped first? But since there were many personalities qualified for this honor, they were unable to decide. Finally, Sahadev spoke up. Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is indeed the most exalted person, for he himself comprises all the devatas worshipped by Vedic sacrifice, along with such aspects of the worship as the sacred place, the time, and the paraphernalia. In his role as the supersoul in the heart, he arranges for everyone in the universe to engage in this particular kind of work. And by his mercy alone, human beings can perform various kinds of pious activities and receive the resultant benefits. So everything is due to the Supreme Lord. And he's also worshipped by the demigods. He who worships him worships all living entities. Therefore, we should give the highest honor to Krishna, the Supreme Lord. If we do so, we will be honoring all living beings and also our own selves. Surely, Lord Krishna should be worshipped first. So he made his statement, which was very, very well received. So this is the Supreme Lord and all the amazing gathering. The Brahmins, the priests, wonderful paraphernalia. Lord Shiva is there. Narad Muni is there. Nearly everyone in the assembly agreed with Sahadev's proposal and loudly congratulated him. Thus, delighted to hear this pronouncement of the Brahmins, King Yudhishthira happily worshipped Lord Krishna. After bathing his feet, the king took the wash water and sprinkled it on his head, and his wives, young brothers and ministers and relatives also sprinkled that water on their heads. That water purifies the whole world. As he honored the Lord with presentations of yellow silken garments, precious jeweled ornaments, the king's tear-filled eyes prevented him from directly looking at the Lord. When they saw Lord Krishna thus honored, nearly everyone shouted, "Oh victory, oh Jai, Jai," and bowed down to Lord Krishna as flowers rained down from above. Must have been the most incredible occasion. But there was always going to be somebody who was not happy. Shishubal, however, could not tolerate hearing the glorification of Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities and the worship and glorification of Krishna. So he was envious from his birth. Now, in front of this arena, in front of all the audience, looking at Krishna being worshipped really upset him in such a way that for the first time, he openly challenged Krishna aggressively. He stood up from his seat and he harshly rebuked the wise elders for choosing Krishna to be worshipped first in the assembly. And he used the following harsh words. Now, he was the cousin, right, of Krishna. And at his birth, he had some unusual features, which were going to be vanished.
Hands, he has too many hands.
Too many hands, yeah. Which were going to vanish when he met his killer. So one day, Krishna and Balaram with Yashoda and Nand must have gone to see Shishupal or his family. And when Krishna went before Shishupal, his extra arms disappeared. So Shishupal's mother was anxious. Oh, you are going to be the killer of my son. I beg you, please don't kill him. And Krishna said, no, no, don't worry. I'll tolerate 100 insults. No problem. So Shishupal always had in his mind that I can insult the Lord 100 times without getting killed by him. So he started his insults. Time is the unavoidable controller of all, has indeed proven true, since the intelligence of wise elders has now become diverted by the words of a mere boy. He considered Krishna as a mere boy. Of course, Krishna was probably a good 100 years old, if not more. O leaders of the assembly, you should not heed the words of a child. Oh no, he was talking about Sahadev. How can you be your attention be diverted by this little boy called Sahadev? You should not heed the words of a child when he claims that Krishna deserves to be worshipped. How can you pass over the most exalted members of this assembly, topmost sages? How does this cowherd boy, the disgrace of his family, deserve your worship? How does one who follows no principles of the social and spiritual orders or of family ethics, who has been excluded from all religious duties, who behaves whimsically, who has no good qualities, how does such a person deserve to be worshipped? Now, the extraordinary thing about all these insults was Krishna was not taking them as insults. He was actually taking them as compliments. And for example, when Shishupal said, you have no good qualities. So Krishna would say, yes, you're right. I don't have any material qualities. All my qualities are spiritual. Who's been excluded from all religious duties? Yes, because just religion cannot attract me. Bhakti, which attracts me. So I don't care for any religious duties. Who behaves whimsically? Yeah, of course. I please my devotees. Whatever my devotees want, even if it's whimsical, I will please them. So I will behave in the way I will dance to their tune. So in this way, he was actually taking the insults as compliments. Yayati cursed the dynasty of the Yadavs, and ever since then, they have been ostracized by honest men and addicted to liquor. How does Krishna deserve to be worshipped? These Yadavs have abandoned the holy lands inhabited by saintly sages and have instead taken shelter of a fortress in the sea. So they left Mathura and were in Dwaka, a place where no Brahminical principles are observed. They're just like thieves, they harass their subjects. So he was coming up with some really crazy comments. Even as Shishupal continued to blaspheme him in this way, Lord Krishna remained silent. But many members of the assembly covered their ears and quickly left the hall. So that's one of the verses that we looked at, number 40. And they angrily cursed the king of Chedi, Shishupal. Anyone who fails to immediately leave the place where he hears criticism of the Lord or his faithful devotees will certainly fall down. The Pandavas raised their weapons and prepared to kill Shishupal. Undaunted, Shishupal took up his sword and continued to hurl insults at those who sided with Lord Krishna. But Lord Krishna, he stopped everybody from attacking. He wanted Shishupal to exhaust his insults, his number of insults that he was allowed. Instead, once he had exhausted the number of insults, Krishna used his Sudarshan Chakra to decapitate the offender. Why did he do that? It said that if any drop of blood had touched the floor, that registry as sacrifice would have been counted for nothing. So during the sacrifice. So this Sudarshan is very clever. He serves the Lord in any way he wants. So the decapitation was so precise that there was no blood that came out of Shishupal. It was very, very precisely cut, done in such a way that no blood dropped on the floor. When Shishupal was thus killed, a great roar and howl went up from the crowd. Taking advantage of that disturbance, the few kings who were supporters of Shishupal quickly left the assembly out of fear for their lives. At that moment, an effulgent spark of light rose out of Shishupal's dead body and entered the transcendental body of Lord Krishna. Having lived through 3 births as the enemy of the Lord, Shishupal now attained the liberation of Sayujya, merging into him by dint of his constant meditation on him. So, just one second. Was Shishupal one of the 3 then? Jai Vijay? Dandakara was the other one, yeah. Okay. So this is the chakra, shooting, chopping his head off, and this is Shishupal merging into the Lord. A different angle, different colors. So there's 5 types of liberation, which we've talked about before. Salokya, which is where you reside with Lord Narayan in this planet. Samipya, be an associate of Narayan. Sarupya, attain a 400 form exactly like that of the Lord, which is actually what Jai and Vijay had when they were cursed by the 4 Kumaras. And current now, it's saying in the Bhagavatam that Shishupal actually attained this one here, Sayujya, merging into the effulgence, Brahman effulgence of the Lord. So as far as I understand, that was a temporary situation, because ultimately they went back after Jai and Vijay. They went back and took their original positions as gatekeepers. So for a short period of time, they were merged into this effulgence, but otherwise they continue to have Sarupya, which is attaining the 400 form, exactly like that of the Lord. So they continued with this same service that they left with. King Yudhishthira then distributed profuse gifts to the respected guests of the assembly and to the priests, and finally he executed the purificatory oblations known as Priyashchit Homa, the final Homa, or the one asking for forgiveness, which counteracts errors made during the sacrifice. Yudhishthira's Rajasuya was successful. After staying for a few months, Lord Krishna took his leave from the king and set off for Dwarka in the company of his wives and ministers. Everyone was very happy, except, of course, the envious Duryodhana. And we'll see a little bit more about that later on in the next few chapters. So that's the end of chapter 74. Any comments, any questions? Nanivan, anything you'd like to?
No. It's I think the way that Krishna killed Shishupal, that is something, because otherwise there would have been bloodshed all over, and this Rajasuya Yagna would have been sort of tainted. But the way he killed without a drop of blood falling into the ground, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. And
I think Krishna had promised his aunt that up to 99 insults he would tolerate him.
Okay.
99 insults, and then the
100
one
got him.
Yeah, got him. Yeah, yes.
He miscounted, right?
Yeah.
I think the Lord tricked him. It just shows you don't insult somebody too many times. So the Lord will get you. Mm. Okay. Surinder, anything you'd like to comment?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Dhanyavad
Krishna.
everybody. Yes, Sri Nityananda Chandram Patita Sharanadam Gauradam Tam Bhajeham. So we have a verse in Brahma Samhita as follows. Yam krodha kama sahaja pranayadi bhiti vatsalya moha guru gaurava sevya bhavai sanchintya tasya sadishim tanumapurete govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Those who cultivated the thoughts of him through anger, amour, natural friendship, fear, parenthood, delusion, reverence, and servitorship attain to bodies of a form and nature appropriate to the mood of their meditation. I worship that primeval Lord Govinda. Yes, so it is explained that we should meditate and remember Krishna in a favorable mood, in a pure bhakti mood, because if you meditate and think of Krishna in anger, just like anger is seen in demons like Shishupal, fear is seen in demons like Kamsa, and delusion is found in the Pandits of the Mayavadi school. So these feelings of anger, fear, and delusion, they are not favorable for bhakti. We should favorably remember Krishna and worship Krishna and meditate on Krishna in a favorable, like with a mood of service to Krishna and his devotees, to please Krishna and his devotees in this way. So we have been given some guidance by Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita. And here in this Prapana Jivanamritam, we have this verse as follows. Asakred aparadhinam api mochakaha raghuvara yat abhustvam tadrisho vayasasya pranata iti dayalur yasya chaidyasya Krishna pratibhavam aparadhur mugdha sayujyadhur Tvadakim aparam agastasya testi kshamayah. This prayer has been recited by Sri Yamunacharya. Translation: the deliverer of even repeated offenders. So it's showing how Krishna is very merciful and magnanimous. O Lord of the Raghu dynasty, addressing to Lord Rama here. O Lord of the Raghu dynasty, just for bowing his head to you, you were merciful upon that crow who was so offensive that he clawed at the breast of Sita Devi. O charming Krishna, you awarded the salvation of merging into your effulgence, Sayuja Mukti, to Shishupal, who was an offender, birth of the birth. Now please tell me, is there any offense that cannot be pardoned by you? So this is so showing this great magnanimity of Shri Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Prabhu, thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Very good. Madhusan Prabhu?
Jai Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Very nice.
Uh-huh.
Right. So yes. Yeah, we see the end of another envious and offensive and blasphemous demonic character. So here we can learn. So first of all, there are two things here. You know how Maharaj Yudhishthira addresses Lord Krishna, and the way he addresses. We should study that, so learn how he actually addressed Lord Krishna, and also the statement of Sahadev, which he makes, giving the importance they give to Krishna in doing this first worship ritual during the Rajasuya sacrifice that was to be performed. So obviously in contrast then we learn how another of the demoniac personalities, Shishupal, gets envious and insults Krishna and comes to his end, like Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra. So again, there was Jarasan, there's Shishupal, there's so many. This is just the nature, demoniac nature. And as is also pointed out in Bhagavad Gita, that, Krishna comes just to annihilate, protect his devotees and deal with the miscreants, so. But we should take note that while Shishupal was being offensive to Krishna, the Pandavas could not actually tolerate. There are so many others also, kings, who couldn't tolerate and they were prepared to kill him, but only Krishna stopped them. So, like you pointed out in this chapter, that we learned that anywhere where we find ourselves in a situation where sometimes we still philosophically, they start to argue with us, oh, is Krishna, why do you think Krishna is God? Well, then they start being offensive to devotees, and in such situations, like you said, there are three options: either walk away, or you challenge them, and the other way, is just to kill them if they're so offensive. So that's what Pandavas prepared to do that. So, but we should not tolerate, as devotees who don't like Krishna being insulted, or even in fact, Sanatana Dharma in itself, who's talk against Sanatana Dharma, and they should stand up for Sanatana Dharma. Okay, Hari Bol.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Any comments? Any questions? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.